was 1936, and what a year it was. America was just rebounding from the Great Depression, which devastated the whole world. We had just elected FDR for a second term in office. In the sports world, the mighty Yankees won another World Series, and Jesse Owens shocked the world in the Olympics with his gold medals in Berlin, Germany. There were two other major events in 1936. Joyce Marie Scroggins was born in Eufaula, Alabama. The other major event was the birth of Harold David Meservey in Belfast, Maine. This is the story of Harold and Joyce Meservey.
Well, first I just want to tell Chris that he should have done this 10 years ago before I had all these wrinkles. I'm Joyce Marie Scroggins. I was born in Clayton, Alabama on December the 28th, 1936. I was born to Nina Adams Scroggins and Charlie Scroggins. I was the fifth of 7 kids. I'm the next to the last, the youngest girl. But Mom's first child was a girl, and she was stillborn. Okay, my childhood was kind of typical. We went around barefooted all the time. We lived way out in the country, so we went barefooted in the woods. I climbed trees. I ran upon snakes barefooted, and we even swam in a creek that had water moccasins. So I'm very thankful I didn't get bit. And one time when me and my younger brother was out roaming in the woods, we ran upon a still. Do you know what a still is? Where they make white lightning. And the people looked at us real funny, the men, and we looked at them and we took off running. Oh, I forgot about that. I had a dog when I was little named Nero. And I'm not kidding you, he played hide and go seek with me. He'd put his little head up against the tree when I was hiding, and then we was just like I had a kid to play hide and go seek with. I loved him, and when he died, my sister and I buried him in a cornfield, and we sang over him. I went to Clayton School. It was from grades 1 through 12. And I had a sister there too. So when I started first grade, my sister told me to, Joyce, you can't go wrong. You just follow that teacher around. So I followed her around. I went in the bathroom with her. My sister said her door was open and she could see the teacher walking up the hall, and here I was right behind her walking. Nice. I want to tell the one about the eggs too.
Please do.
I have a story about eggs. My father owned a tiny little store about 1/4 of a mile from where we lived, and in between was an old setting hen on her eggs. Well, Daddy wouldn't give us any candy, but he said if I took an egg, I could get a piece of candy. So I'd go down there and run that old chicken off and take one of those eggs. I always felt sorry for the people that bought them because I know they might have had a chick in it already. But that's the only way we could get a piece of candy. Mom had me baptized when I was 13 by just visiting missionaries that came way out in the country. And I was baptized in a very cold community pool. And they had to take me under twice because my feet stuck out. But we had no church to go to. But my parents had been baptized into the church right after they got married. But we had no church to go to, so...
And what church was that?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We moved to California when I was 13 into a little town named Madera. I went all through high school in Madera, graduated, and I was voted Miss Betty Crocker, Homemaker of Tomorrow. I still have my pen and my cookbook, but my cookbook is old and dilapidated like I am now. Madera was a small town and there was nothing to do, so I decided to join the Army. The reason I joined the Army was because I was going to be sent to Alabama, where I was born. So that's the reason. And I had my basic at Fort McClellan, Alabama. I trained as a clerk typist. But then when they sent me to my permanent base, which was Fort Dix, New Jersey, I'd never used that. I got to drive our colonel around. I also got to drive a truck around to pick up and deliver things. I loved it. I love basketball. So we had an Army team, and I was on it. And we'd go off and play other bases and other towns, and we were very good because we won first place. And I got a watch and a jacket. I still have my jacket. It's got a couple of moth holes in it, but I have it. It's got a big basketball with Fort Dix on it. Tell you how I met Harold. I had a date on Valentine's Day with this guy, and I asked him if he could bring somebody to be with my girlfriend so we could double date. So he shows up with Harold. Well, the only place I used to love to dance I'd rather dance than eat before I got married. So the only place I had a jukebox was a beer joint. So here we go. And everybody ordered a beer but me. Well, I don't know what happened, but Harold asked me to dance. And then I found out, even though he wasn't a member of our church, he never drank. He said he just ordered a beer so they wouldn't bother him. Anyway, somehow that night, the other couple got together and we got together. The other couple got drunk, and Harold had to bring him home, had to drive him home. And 4 months later, on June the 28th, 1957, in Browns Mills, New Jersey, by a judge, we were married. And that's the day I got my discharge. But we were married that day.
And then Dad took you...
Yeah. I had never met his parents. So, of course, I had just gotten out of the Army, but he took a week's leave. So we went up to Belfast, Maine, where he was born. I used to be so shy back then. I wouldn't even look anybody in the eye. And here Harold takes me, we got there at midnight. He takes me right into their bedroom and them sleeping. And I was so scared. Anyway, they woke up, and the first thing his dad said was, just show me the marriage license.
Harold David Missouri, 84 years old, and born in Maine, 1936, January 9th.
Okay. And who are your children?
Mike, Alan, and Chris.
All right. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up in, was it Belfast where you grew up?
Belfast.
Tell us what it was like to grow up there.
It was nice, like I say. Dad was always at home, like I say, working around there, on the farm. The chickens, horses, cows. I went to school. Drive since I was 6 years old.
You were driving since you were 6 years old? Tell me about that.
Like I say, just attracting stuff on the farm, and I had no problem at all. Dad was a sheriff and chief of police there, so no, I wasn't worried about going to jail.
That's great. That's
Uncle Harold was a policeman.
Nice. And you grew up on a farm?
Yep.
Wow. Did you make money from the farm, or?
Yeah, I had to manage to live in 20,000 chickens.
And you're what, the oldest, youngest of your family?
Second oldest. Nancy's the oldest to me, then Gertrude, Nancy, Annie, then Richard.
Okay, and who got married first out of the kids? Was Nancy married
Nancy,
first?
and then Annie, and then me, and Gertrude,
Okay.
and Richard afterwards.
So high school. Tell me about your sports in high school.
Crosby High School Lions, football, baseball, basketball, track,
What was your best sport?
football.
And what did you do in football?
I led the league and also the thing in 1953, 54-yard average punting.
Wow, you were a punter.
Yeah.
And then tell us about how it all ended.
Shoulder, left shoulder.
You dislocated it, right? How many times did you dislocate your shoulder?
10 times altogether.
Wow.
And Dad carried me all the way from the football field over to the hospital across the street
Wow.
at the Anderson Field.
So love life. Did you ever date girls in high school? Did you go
Oh,
to
yeah.
dances? What was that
I got
like?
a lot of them.
Oh, you did? So how many girlfriends did you have in high school, you think?
Probably about 10, off and on.
10 girlfriends. Did they all go to Belfast High School?
Yeah, some went to that, some went to Searsport, some went to Camden.
And how would you meet these girls?
With dance, I guess I met them at driving around.
Okay. And who did you hang out with? Did you have like a best friend, or did you hang out with Richard? Or
No, Richard was 10 years younger, so no
oh,
problem.
Richard was 10 years younger. I didn't know that.
I was 6 years, I think, was it. John Adams was my best friend, but he committed suicide when he was 12 years old.
When he was 12 years old?
Put a gun to his head, and we went home that day, man, and from the park down there. I said, "I see you later." And he said, "Okay, boy." And next thing I had his gun at the house, and Dad went over and he said, "Don't go over, don't go to the funeral."
Wow. Why? Do we know why he did that? Or
Bill,
a what?
Bill, Sally Thompson.
Broke up with him?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that, Dad.
Yeah.
Wow. So was there a girl in high school you thought you'd marry?
No, I don't think so.
So you just like to have fun with them and
Fun.
do that?
I would say when I went to Korea, man, I just didn't write. I was on the water for 60 days, coming and going. So no way of getting mail to anybody.
So tell us about that. You signed up for the Army, or did they draft you?
No, I signed up
Why did you sign up for the Army?
because I was going to go to the military police for 3 years, and then come out and go to the Maine State Police. And it had to be 21. So 18 to 21 was 3 years.
Did your dad tell you to sign up for the Army, or?
No, he let me do what I wanted to. He said,
Okay.
okay, and I went ahead and did it. Yeah.
So when you found out that you were going to Korea, did that scare you, or what did you
No,
think?
because it was halfway to Alaska when they announced that all the people going to Japan were now being assigned to Korea.
So you're on a boat already,
Oh, yeah.
and you were headed to Japan.
Yeah.
Did you make it to Japan?
No, went around and went to Korea.
Wow. And how long were you in Korea?
22 months.
Wow. Did you live there on a boat, or did you live in the city?
No, lived in a tent.
You lived in a tent. On the boat or in the...
military. The boat was 30 days by each way.
Wow.
Sick every day, man. Feeding the fish.
Wow.
Handcuffed to the rail, man, so I wouldn't go overboard.
Well, you signed up for the Army, not the Navy, right?
That's right. So I told him several times.
Did you have any girlfriends in the Army before you met your wife?
No.
Not really, huh?
No.
Just kind of did your thing.
Yeah.
Did you play sports in the Army or
I
anything?
tried out for football because they just wasn't up to it, man. And altogether different, all the different class of people involved.
Different group.
Basketball, 11 All-Americans from different colleges.
Wow. Wow. And so what do you do in Korea on your free time? Did you go out and have fun, or?
No, it wasn't. It was just seven days a week. It was the same thing every day.
Okay.
Working. Yeah.
All right. So tell me now the story of Mom. How did you meet your wife, and how did that go down?
Like I say, she was driving the Colonel and I was driving the Colonel. The other one, like I say, and they just said, hit it off real good. We kept out there. Every time we had a meeting, sat there washing the cars and stuff like that. And like I said, she said that. And then when I got in the Army, in the hospital, my shoulder, they finally operated on me. That's when she come over just about every day to see me. So.
Really?
Yeah.
You were in the hospital, and Mom came over to see you every day. I didn't know that. So did you date her for a long time? Did you know she was the one, or what was different about Joyce?
The first thing I say was her friend needed someone to go with her, is a confirmed. And like I said, next thing I know, man, we was up there, and I went to a bar and dancing. And I bought a beer, and they didn't drink beer, and I said I didn't either. I just bought it and left it there. That was a cover charge. And then they got drunk, and this one that I was with and she was with, we switched. And like I say, I wound up going with her afterwards. I drove them home.
Huh. How did you ask her to marry you?
I don't really remember. I didn't get on my knees, I know that.
And then you stayed in the Army, and she moved back to California.
In June.
And then you took her to meet your mom and dad at like midnight or something?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I remember taking the bus up to Maine, getting off down to White Street, and walked up the White Street Road, and Dad said, "You what?" He said, "I want to see the license before you jump in bed, man." So I showed him the wedding license. He said, "Okay." So that was all there was in Maine that time.
Was Mom scared at all, or?
She wondered what was going on, I think. Yeah.
Harold had 3 months left in the service, so I went on back to Madeira, and then he came home after that, and we just flipped a coin. One side we'd go to Los Angeles, the other side we'd go to San Francisco, where we ended up in Los Angeles. And after a couple of little odd jobs, he got a job with Coast Envelope Company. Okay, well, yeah, okay. It was Coast Envelope Company. He worked his way up. He started as a stock person, and then he ended up being the manager of the print shop, and he ended up working there for 32 years. Now, that's when Mike was born. Yeah. Okay, Mike was born in Los Angeles at the hospital called Doctor's Hospital. He had a doctor named Dr. Rose. And it's a coincidence because his wife is named Rose now. But he was born on March the 3rd, 1957. 59, sorry. In 1959. And 3 months after he was born, Harold joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we have been active ever since. Oh yeah, I have a story. I have to tell you one story about Mike. His grandfather, Missouri, was the sheriff up in Belfast, Maine, where Harold's from. And they were living at the jail. So we go to visit one year, and I had sent Mike upstairs to brush his teeth. About a half hour later, no sound, so up we go. He had locked the door. We banged on the door. We didn't hear no sound. We had to break the door down. There was Mike laying on his back, sound asleep with a toothbrush hanging out of his mouth. From Los Angeles, we moved to Norwalk. Alan was born in Norwalk Community Hospital, and his doctor was Dr. Dorius, and he was an LDS doctor. And then he was born on February the 1st, 1963, and a story about Alan. We were back in Maine at the jail again with his grandparents, and somebody had hit a deer out of season, so they brought it up there, and his grandmother had cleaned it, and she fixed it that night. Alan started crying. He's saying, "No way I'm going to eat any of that deer." He was only about 5 years old, or 6. He said, "No way am I going to eat any of that deer." But today, Alan is the only one of our sons that loves to fish and hunt, and yes, he eats deer today. I worked I worked 2 or 3 jobs before I had Mike, but then in between Mike and Alan, I worked for 3.5 years at the same place that Harold did. I was a bookkeeper, and I was the one that made his check out every week, so he couldn't pull nothing over, no wool over my eyes. But that's the time I worked between, and then we moved to Ontario, and that's where Chris was born. Chris was born in the Kaiser Hospital in Fontana. I had no idea who his doctor was, because every time I went for a checkup, it was a different doctor. And so some stories about him. I have 3 I got to tell you about him. Since he's the one doing this, I feel like I can tell a few more. So the first one was, well, I was taking Alan and dropping him off for a Little League practice. And I had driven into the park a little bit just to drop him off. Well, when I went in, a police car drove up behind me. So I got out to tell the policeman, well, I'm just backing out, you know. And Chris was about 3 years old, 3 or 4. He put the car in reverse and it rolled back into the police car. And so, but I'm so thankful the policeman didn't give me a ticket or nothing, so I got out of that. And then another story about him, we were in the market grocery shopping. He was about 2 then. There was a man bent over stocking the shelf. He had a great big feather duster stuck out of his back pocket. And here Chris, real loud voice, "Mom, look at that guy's tail." But the one that was the cutest to me is we were out bowling as a family. He was about 4 or 5 then. And of course Chris was running all over the place, and of course Harold got mad, so he took him and sat him in this chair. He said, "Don't you dare get out of that chair for the rest of the night." 2 minutes later, Chris was running around. But I told Harold, I said, "You cannot say a word to him because Chris still was holding the chair under his bottom." So those were cute stories. I can still remember all that. We were in Ontario almost 30 years, and then that's where, well, I made a lot of good friends there too, and I still keep in contact with some of them today, but most of them have passed away. That was our age or younger, but that's where Harold retired. He retired in 1991 there. And we sold everything we had. Our car, our furniture, our house, and got in our car and started off cross country for parts unknown. Being that he and I both were born in a state where there was plenty of trees, we said we weren't even going to stop until we found trees. So we ended up in a little town almost in the Kentucky border named Jamestown, Tennessee. We spent 10 years there. Decided to serve a mission. And we were a senior mission, of course, and we were sent to an Indian reservation way out 100 miles from everything in Saskatchewan, Canada. And I had told our bishop that, please, when we sent in our mission papers, I said, I want to go to a warm climate. Well, and then we went up there, and the bishop told me, he said, "Sister Missouri, remember, many are chosen, but few are frozen." So, but I'm not kidding. That the weather got 40 below zero, and the snow was so bad we couldn't tell what was around us until spring, but we survived. After our mission, we moved to Taylor, Snowflake, Arizona area. That was the best area and the best friends that I've ever had, and I did not want to move. Sorry. Because Taylor was very patriotic. They had so many patriotic programs, which I love. And so I'm going to miss that too. We only left Taylor, and like I said, I didn't want to move, but we only left Taylor because we had no family there. So we had to move up here to New Harmony, Utah. We put a very small house on one of our son's property. And we have another son lives here, and of course Chris only lives 2 hours away. So we're a lot closer to family, and that's the only reason we moved here. So we're here to live out our final days, whatever they are here.
So you and Mom get married and you finally end up in California.
Yep.
So where did you live? What jobs did you have? What was life like?
I went down, like I said, Friday and went to a place down in Calais and got a job with a meat packing company.
Oh, where at?
It was
In Hollywood or?
no, that was downtown LA.
Oh, downtown LA at a meat packing
Yeah.
company.
Went over to Boston Book and Sample, down to 6 and something, and I went down there, and then after that I went up around somewhere like I say, I think it was, trying to think now what it was, but anyway, this guy had an opening on the board, and the guy come over and he said, "Would you be interested in working as a stock handler?" I said, "Yeah, sure." It was $2.05 an hour or something.
$2.05 an hour?
Yeah, good money those days. Anyway, I sat there and the guy said, "You want him?" And he said he could. And the guy said, "Yeah, I'll hire him." So I said, "Okay." And I worked my way up 33 years.
And that was Coast Envelope.
Coast Envelope.
Is that what it was called originally?
Yep.
It was called Coast Envelope.
Coast Envelope.
And it was very loud in there, right?
No, it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
It wasn't in printing because of machines and everything else, and
Okay.
folding and the cutting wasn't bad.
Why didn't you become a police officer?
I tried.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. I went 3 days and 3 nights down there to LAPD, man. And I guess they took 7 out of 700. Everything had to be just perfect.
You just didn't get it, huh? Huh.
I guess bust my hands and worked out and everything else. And it counted how many teeth they had, how overweight and everything else.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were fussy.
Wow, I didn't know that you did that. So, religion a little bit. So you grew up Baptist, is
Yeah,
that right?
Baptist church.
Were you active, you personally?
Oh yeah.
Did you believe in it? And,
Yeah.
Okay, and then all of a sudden I don't know for sure, but the missionaries came. Tell me all that happened, how you changed religions.
Well, after I left, I got married and everything else, and didn't go to church at all. And then they sent the missionaries down from Madeira and stuff. They caught up with us. And the rest is history. The missionary from Georgia was one that baptized me.
So the missionary from Georgia,
Yeah.
they taught you. How long did that take?
Oh, probably about 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks. And was mom active before that, or?
No.
So she didn't go
no,
either.
She didn't either.
And then you just decided, hey, I like this.
Made sense, yeah.
Made sense. Because your mom and dad, they didn't support it, or did they?
They had no problem at all. But they were Baptist church.
So they said it's okay for you to become
No,
Mormon.
no. I'm the only one in the family that goes to church anyway, so.
Oh, nobody else goes to
No.
church?
And he got married and they haven't been to church since.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't. Grandma and Grandpa used to go to church, though? They did. Okay. Anything you want to say about
Yeah, I
Alan?
just remember him growing up, like I say, and then coming home one day, and I kept trying to get him. I said, why don't you go in the army and do something, you know, because he didn't finish school and everything else. He went to school, and got Henry down there in that room. And I said, you know, maybe. And he said, no, don't want to go. And the next thing I know, he went down to see Sergeant Kelly down in Euclid Avenue. And he said, would you like that? And he picked out, and he said, oh, I'm qualified to be an MP. And he said, yeah, you can. So he went ahead and went in the army.
Wow, that was a big change for Alan, huh?
It's the biggest thing that ever happened. Just
I
like the
think
best thing
so.
and all that, yeah.
So what's one of Alan's best qualities?
He's a hard worker.
Hard work.
Yeah. I think he's honest.
Okay. Let's go back to Mike. Just tell me one of his best qualities that you really like.
He was a good worker.
Mike's a good worker.
In the Hank Division.
Okay. And I think he's a really good grandpa, isn't he?
Yep, oh, he's really good. Grandpa takes him all over the place down and everything else. And now that he don't work in road works and picked up the tab.
Good. Were you planning on that first child, Mike, or was that a surprise to you, or
No, we planned on it.
did it change your life when you had a baby?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, just
kind of went with the flow?
Went with the flow.
Okay. All right, so tell us about Chris. What is the story about Chris, or a quality like about
That's Mom's boy.
That's Mama's boy. Yes, he is.
Yeah, he went a good. Like I said, my company gave me that scholarship. Yeah.
$2,000.
Yeah.
So you raised all your boys in California.
Yep.
Tell me about what I remember is how good of a softball player you were. Do you want to talk about those years? What you did in softball and why you liked it?
Yeah. Like I said, I pitched for about 30 years. Like I say, fast pitch 75, 80 miles an hour. I remember you didn't want to go to the backyard and catch me.
I did.
Alan's finally one that went to the backyard. Church ball, softball, coach envelope, had a team. I done the prison play.
We were in chains or watching outside the fences.
I remember one guy who took down Steve Sharp, and boy, he got scared, and they put him out there in the parking lot for 2 hours while we were playing ball inside.
And what was your nickname?
Sonny?
Sonny?
Yeah.
Okay, ball officiating. How long did you do that? How did you get started in that?
48 years
48 years?
altogether. Oscar Brett was the guy that got me involved in that one. He was in California. He was All-American from Ole Miss.
And he just invited you to come referee?
Yep. He's going to get ahead and learn how to do it. And I guess I kept going, did everything, man, the church ball and the city leagues, and some high school, some college.
Any superstars that you ever refereed?
Yeah, I think Bill Walton was a super one I read one time. He was a freshman, and we went at San Dimas.
Wow, and how old were you when you finally quit refereeing?
81.
81 years old. That's pretty phenomenal, pretty phenomenal. What is something that you really value, or something that is really important to you in your life? Something that you value as advice you could leave for the younger kids?
Just work hard, be honest. Yeah. I think about my kids, And like I say, I think, we made out real good, okay? We saved money all the way through life, and everything we have bought in the last 25 or 30 years we paid cash for. It's good about keeping money. And kept good cows.
You mentioned hard work. Why hard work?
I think hard work and being honest pays off. I think I worked all the way from the bottom of the pole all the way up to almost the top of it at the international paper.
Okay. Something that you're really a good quality of yours is you love talking to people and you're funny.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Why do you love talking to people so much?
I don't know. I just one of those guys that got a gift of gab, I guess.
Because you're so good at it. Everybody loves talking to you. You make people laugh.
And I got a good memory, so I remember a lot of stuff.
Well, I was just going to say a couple things about my hobbies. I love family history. I do that. I did love cooking because that's what I majored in high school, and I love to cook, but I don't cook that much anymore. But I love crafts. I do little crafts around here all day, and some of you guys have got my crafts. And of course, I walk 2 hours every day, so that's one of my things that I do also. Well, I've always valued, of course, my kids, and now my grandkids and my great-grandkids. I have, as of right now, we have 14 grandkids, which we'll never have any more of those. And of course, Avery and TJ are our youngest grandkids. And now we're expecting our 22nd great-grandchild, which is be Chris's first grandchild. Mike, when Mike was little, he was little. And he was the cutest little kid, and we put him into a beauty thing, and he won second place, but they all said he should have won first place. But Mike, of course, was our first, and when we worked at Coast, both of us, Harold worked at night on the swing, and I worked day, so Harold would bring Mike to work and leave him in the place where you eat until I left. Mike is a very great grandfather. He does so much for his kids. He's spoiling them rotten because he does so much for them, but he is a great grandfather. Well, Alan joined the Army after school, and what was cute about that is when I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, it was a white detachment for training. When Alan joined the Army as an MP, he went to Fort McClellan, Alabama too, where I had my training, so that was cute. And Alan, he was a cute little thing. In fact, I think when he was born, he had black hair. Then it came out kind of blonde hair. But, of course, he was a deputy sheriff for almost 30 years, too, so that made him even more patriotic. And how I'm very patriotic, I've always hoped one of my kids or grandkids would carry it on. I have a grandson, Daniel, who was also in the Army, and he's the one that's taken my patriotism on a lot. So, Chris being our last one, of course, we used to bring Daniel, Stacy, and Season over, and Chris was real good with them. He always loved kids, and he wanted to teach, and so that's why we're glad he became a teacher. Ever since I didn't go to church much growing up because I didn't have a way to go. We had no church, and I didn't. But ever since I got active, I loved the church. I've had the privilege of having every calling in the church that a woman can have, and I was always so shy and everything, and boy, have these callings, they brought me out of my shyness now. I'm not that shy anymore because I've accepted all these callings, and they've really, really, really helped me. My hope is, I know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is true, and my hope is that someday all my family, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and the rest of my posterity will join the church, and that we can all be together in the hereafter. Because I love all of you. I love you all.